Let's talk about Cooperstown. What current Cardinals are on the track to enshrinement in the Hall of Fame, as well as we have 6 new members of the 2022 class that have already been announced, a couple with Cardinal ties. So we'll be talking about all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Cardinals, so stay tuned.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Cardinals for Tuesday, December the 7th of 2021. I am Lucas Smith, host of the show at LJ Fastball on Twitter. You can see it right there if you're watching on YouTube. And whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcasting platform, thank you for joining me today as the lockout continues. No real big news on the lockout, so we're going to not talk about the lockout today. Yesterday's episode was almost fully entirely devoted to talking about the lockout, talking about some comments made by Rob Manfred last week. So if you missed that episode, my thoughts, or want to hear the comments Rob Manfred did make, you can head back over to yesterday's episode, whether it be on your favorite podcasting platform or on the YouTube channel. But today we're going to talk about the Hall of Fame. We're going to talk about 3 current Cardinals that I believe could be, if not already are, on the track to Cooperstown. Because Cooperstown being the home of the Hall of Fame, it's a pretty exclusive place to be in the Hall of Fame. And I think that there are 3 Cardinals for sure, or at least 3 Cardinals that we're going to discuss today that are on the Cooperstown track. We'll also be talking about the 6 members that have already been inducted to the Hall of Fame as part of the 2022 class. And again, a couple with Cardinal ties. So we'll be talking about that on today's episode of Locked On Cardinals. So hope you are ready for a good one. When you think about people that are on the track for Cooperstown, you have to think about who has been dominating and who is going to dominate, especially if you think of if they're in the middle of their career. That is something to think about. So the first one I'm going to talk about I think all 3 are interesting because all 3 have caveats to them, in my opinion. The first one I'm going to talk about, I think, is probably one of the more surefire ones, and that is Paul Goldschmidt. Through 2021, he's got a career batting mark of 293, career on base of 389, a 521 slugging percentage for his career, 911 OPS. That's on base plus slugging, and a 142 career OPS plus. He has 280 career home runs, so one would expect him to get at least 300 in 2022. He has driven in 927 runs, so one would also expect him to get to 1,000 RBI by the end of the year. He's also stolen 140 bags, which is pretty solid for the average first baseman. When you look at his resume, he's been an all-star from 2013 all the way to 2018. He's been second in the MVP voting, not once, but twice. Multiple gold gloves, including this most recent year. And he was 6th in the MVP voting this most recent year as well. So even when he's not winning, not getting second, he's still getting close. And one could argue that in 2013, when he led the league in home runs, runs driven in, slugging, OPS, OPS plus, and total bases, that he could have won the MVP that year. All in all, it was Andrew McCutchen that ended up winning the MVP in 2013, but still a very good season for Paul Goldschmidt. But even in his tenure as a Cardinal in 3 seasons, two full seasons, one COVID shortened, he still has a very respectable 71 home runs across 377 games, a batting average of 280, slugging 491, so a little bit below his career average. So you can start to see his numbers start to dip down just a little bit. And I will acknowledge that Paul Goldschmidt of 2021 or 2019, 2021 has not necessarily been the Paul Goldschmidt that we saw up until that point from 2011 to 2018. Those are pretty dominant years, somewhat hard to repeat. But I also will argue that he is still producing. Paul Goldschmidt is still producing at an incredible level. And I don't think that if Paul Goldschmidt retired today, he's a Hall of Famer. For example, I think if Mike Trout retired today, he's a Hall of Famer. If Paul Goldschmidt retired today, I don't necessarily think he gets in right away, maybe because you take into account that he only played 11 years. But if you look at his a 10-season stretch from 2012 to 2021, from Arizona to St. Louis, those are pretty solid numbers. 272 home runs across that span, drove in 901, OPS plus of 142, slugging of 523. Those are 10 of his 11 years. The one I took out was 2011, his first year. A run of incredible dominance. Was it necessarily dominant, like Albert Pujols per se? No, because at the same token, I think if Albert Pujols retired the day after he signed a contract or the day after the 2011 season, so the day after his 10-year mark was up, then I think he would have been a Hall of Famer then. Paul Goldschmidt, I think, is on that track. I think it's reasonable, to expect him to hit 25 to 30 home runs again this year. And if he hits 20 home runs, he'll get to that 300 mark. And he's under contract for another 5 years. So you expect him to hit anywhere from maybe 20 to 25 as he gets a little bit older in age. But maybe the DH role is able to help him because maybe he's able to get off his feet a little bit defensively and save him a little bit, give him a couple extra energy boosts and give him a little more power later in his career. Who knows? But he just has such a smooth, powerful, compact swing straight to the ball that is just proven to get results. He has hit outside of Arizona, which has been somewhat of a favorable place to hit, maybe not as favorable as the next guy I'll talk about that I think is on the Hall of Fame track. But Paul Goldschmidt, 31 home runs this most recent year, 99 runs driven in, 177 hits. He's got 1,572 hits, so one could also say that he's on track for 2,000, which I think 2,000 might become the next 3,000. What I mean by that is 3,000 used to be the number a player had to get to be in a Hall of Fame. Or if you got that number, you were in the Hall of Fame regardless. I think that with the way that the average is dipping and the amount of hits are dropping, that maybe 2,500 could be that elusive number that if you get 2,500, you're automatically in. But one could see easily Paul Goldschmidt playing another 5 or 6 years, easily getting 2,000 if he's able to stay healthy. And I just think when you look at his production from a first baseman standpoint, the slugging percentage, the OPS plus, the total bases, the home runs, I think are just all there. I think that he, again, if he retires today, is he a Hall of Famer? No, not necessarily. But I do think he is definitely on that track. If you guys agree, let me know in the YouTube comment section. Email at lockedoncards@gmail.com. Be sure to reply to a tweet, DM on Twitter at LJFastball, or the show on Twitter and Instagram at LO_Cardinals. I acknowledge that I've been kind of lacking on LO_Cardinals on the content, but the episodes have been up daily. But I think Paul Goldschmidt is on a Hall of Fame track. Another hitter that I believe is on the Hall of Fame track is Nolan Arenado. Nolan is an interesting one because, well, let me back up. The caveat to Paul Goldschmidt, I think, is that he didn't get a lot of national attention, so maybe he's not talked about as much playing in Arizona, not making the playoffs a whole lot. But I think with Nolan Arenado, you still found ways to talk about him, even when he played for Colorado. The caveat there to me is, he was hitting in Denver. How much can you really take effect of him hitting in Denver? He proved that he can hit outside of Denver in 2021. Yes, his average dipped, but his on base of 312 dipped a little bit. The slugging was right there, 494, which is what it was higher than it was in 2020. His OPS 807. Yes, under career norms. I understand that. But he still hit 34 home runs, still drove in 105 runs. He still hit 34 doubles. 34 doubles was the most doubles he hit since 2018 when he had 38 doubles. He had 31 in 2019, and he had 9 in a shortened and injury-riddled 2020. So Nolan Arenado has proven that he can hit. And what elevates Nolan Arenado almost above any other third baseman in the game today is his defense. 9 consecutive Gold Gloves to start his career. First in 2013 as a 22-year-old in Colorado, and his most recent one as a 30-year-old in St. Louis in 2021. 9 straight. That is dominance that we have not seen in a very long time. It's dominance, I guess not very long. Yadier Molina has won his fair share of Gold Gloves. That is dominance that we do not see in Major League Baseball every year, every generation. That is quite literally a generational type run. 9 Gold Gloves to start a career, and he shows no sign of stopping. Could you see his offense taking a hit? Yes. I also think when you look at Nolan Arenado's possible downtick in batting average and a little bit of the numbers offensively, had a lot of pressure, was probably pressing early on of the season, but we saw his dominance. We saw his ability to step up. We saw his ability to still produce when we're looking at his production from a St. Louis Cardinals standpoint. And again, that defense just does not go unnoticed to me. Brooks Robinson maybe necessarily wasn't the greatest third baseman hitting of all time, but there is an argument to be saying, okay, he is the best fielding third baseman of all time. And I think with Nolan Arenado, when you are widely regarded, maybe not 100%, but widely regarded as the best at your position for a given period of time, bare minimum, he's the best fielding third baseman in all of baseball. I don't think there's too much disputing that. No disrespect to the likes of Matt Chapman. I understand that there are great fielding third basemen across the league, but Nolan Arenado, for my money, is the best fielding third baseman in all of baseball, and bare minimum top 5 overall third baseman in all of baseball. And I think that Nolan Arenado has been a top 5 third baseman pretty much since 2015 in his first All-Star game when he hit 40, or All-Star game appearance when he hit 42 home runs that year. So Nolan Arenado, to me, he has shown the dominance over a 10-year stretch. He doesn't show a lot of signs of slowing down, especially on the defensive end. So I think Nolan Arenado, arguably, is more on a Hall of Fame track than Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt has played 11 years, and in so far 9 years for Nolan Arenado. Career numbers, 269 home runs, so he is within striking distance of getting 300 this year. He needs 31, obviously. He's driven in 865 runs. His on-base percentage overall for his career is 345, slugging 535. That's pretty solid. OPS of 880, OPS plus of 121. 288, the career batting mark, 1,357 hits. I think Nolan Arenado, when you are regarded as the best at your position for a long time, as long as Nolan Arenado has been, Hall of Fame seems to be the likely option at the end of the road. So, because of their longevity of success, I view Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado on the track upwards to Cooperstown in 10, 15 years, 20 years maybe, depending on how the ballots shape out, and who knows what's going to happen in 10, 15, 20 years. Whew, it's weird to think about, but nevertheless, let me know if you agree or disagree. Going to take a quick break to tell you about 2 wonderful sponsors, and then I'm going to talk about a pitcher that is an interesting discussion. He's an interesting discussion about who might be in the Hall of Fame pitching-wise for the St. Louis Cardinals on this current team. So we'll talk about that coming up in just a moment. But all these, you're going to have to make your best bet on. And if you want to make your best bet on what's currently going on in the sport landscape, BetOnline.ag is the place to go. They have more odds, more props, more lines than ever before. As football season is reaching the playoffs and college action is in full swing as well. BetOnline is your number one spot for all the sports action this season. So head over to that new updated desktop or mobile website and sign up today and receive a 50%. That's right, a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. You can just use a promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, Locked On, to receive that welcome bonus. Whether it's baseball, football, NHL, boxing, or UFC, or your favorite Vegas casino game, don't wait. Take advantage of the 2021 season at BetOnline. It's the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, and BetOnline is where the game starts. I want to help solve a problem for you all that most of you probably have experienced at least once in your life. You have one device that lets you catch a game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, you're watching sports highlights on your phone, you've got your neighbor's best friends log in for the good stuff. It's confusing, it's a hassle. There's a simple way to get your TV together and to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle. It's called DirecTV Stream. It brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch all your favorite sports, movies, and shows in one singular place. No more juggling remotes, no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. Get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. That is DirecTV Stream. If you want more information, go to directtv.com. You can learn more again at directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. The next Hall of Fame hopeful, I wouldn't go as far to say likely, but the next Hall of Fame hopeful in my mind on this current Cardinal roster would be Adam Wainwright. 16-year career starting back in 2005, played 2 games in 2005. His rookie year was 2006. For his career, is a 44.5 WAR, so 44.5 wins above replacement. 425 games, 358 of those starts, 2,375 and 2/3 of an inning, 2,004 strikeouts, a whip of 1.21. Career ERA of 3.35, 184 wins compared to 105 losses. 3 saves to boot as well. All 3 of those saves coming in 2006. He's 3 for 11. Three saves overall in 2006. I beg your pardon. All coming in that rookie season. It's an interesting case when you look at Adam Wainwright because he had some dominance. He had many years where he led the league in plenty of different categories. And with me, Adam Wainwright just becomes this very interesting case of what if. What if he didn't lose all of 2011 to Tommy John, and therefore 2012 was a rebuilding year for him? What if he didn't lose all but 7 games in 2015 due to an Achilles injury, and therefore have some lingering injuries that really kept with him from 2016 all the way to 2018? In 2017, he only made 24 starts. That was 2017. He only made 24 starts. In 2018, he only made 8 starts. What if he was able to stay healthy the entirety of his career? Then do you see more Cy Youngs? Because he doesn't have a Cy Young. That's going to hurt him. Do you see more wins? Do you see him already have 200 wins? Because he's only 16 wins away from 200. And I know that wins don't mean everything in today's baseball, but I do think when you look at the Hall of Fame, the voters are still going to look for wins. And he needs a 16-win season in his final season, or what he says is his final season, to get to 200, which would be an incredible accomplishment. But he led the league in wins twice, 19 in 2009 and 19 in 2013. Led the leagues in games started twice, 34 in 2009 and 34 in 2013. Led the league in innings pitched twice, 233 in 2009, and you guessed it, 241 and 2/3 in 2013. Led the league in batters faced in 2009 and 2013, 970 in 09 and 956 in 13. He was arguably could have been a Cy Young in 2010 when he was 20 and 11 with a 2.42 ERA. Came up second that year. Arguably was a Cy Young in 2013 was his best year. 19 and 9, 2.94 ERA, 34 game starts. He led the league in the following categories in 2013. Wins 19, games started 34, complete games 5, shutouts 2, innings pitched 241.2, hits 2.23, and batters faced 957. Leading the league in the lowest amount of hits and leading the league in batters faced. Simply remarkable for Adam Wainwright in 2013. There's no doubt in my mind that he is a Cardinal Hall of Famer. He will be wearing a red jacket because he will be a Cardinal Hall of Famer without question. But the debate here is, will he be a Cooperstown Hall of Famer? That's the question. That's what we've been talking about. That's where Adam Wainwright becomes an interesting case because he's going to have a 17-year career, very, very respectable, multiple Gold Gloves, a Silver Slugger, top 5 Cy Young voting, not once, but 4 times in his career, 3-time All-Star. So to me, he's on the edge. I think personally, as time goes on, as we see time move on, I think he gets in on a committee, on one of these committees that will be not conjured up, but created for this time period in Major League Baseball. I don't know if he gets in on the writers' ballot. I just don't see enough dominance for the writers to vote him in. I think he could hang on, get 5% of the vote, a couple years here and there. But to me, it's probably really biased of me for Adam Wainwright to be in the Hall of Fame. Being a Cardinal fan growing up, watching him each and every day that he pitches now as somebody who covers the Cardinals. Again, that's why I think he's going to be a Cardinal Hall of Famer. Because he means so much. The Team Hall of Fame, yes, has to do with numbers, but when you look at the Team Hall of Fame, I think you're able to count in intangibles a little bit more. Adam Wainwright was never really regarded as the best at his position at any point in time. He was a top pitcher, like I said, 2013, 2014, probably on that track again in 2015. Had a 1.61 ERA in 7 games, 4 starts before being derailed with an Achilles that year. I just think Adam Wainwright is borderline when you look at Cooperstown Hall of Fame. Cardinal Hall of Fame, again, he's in without a doubt, without a question, without a shadow of a doubt. Adam Wainwright is in. It's just so bizarre to talk about Adam Wainwright without talking about Yadier Molina. I bet you thought I wasn't going to talk about Molina when I was talking about the Hall of Fame. Well, you'd be wrong. Yadier Molina, for his career, 2021 being his most recent year, 18-year career that started back in 2004 when he played 51 games for the National League pennant-winning Cardinals. 42.1 WAR. He's got 2,112 hits, 171 home runs, batting average of 280. Did not expect that. On base of 330, slugging of 402, OPS of 733, and an OPS plus of 97. Offensively, with Yadier Molina, you have to be able to compare him to other catchers because of the brutality of that position. I think any position you have to compare positionally, but especially with catcher. What sets Molina apart, and you all know this very well, the Gold Gloves. He was a Gold Glover in 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, and again in 2018. He was also an all-star from 2009, 2015, throwing two more in 17 and 18, and again as a 38-year-old in 2021. He has the accolades, especially as a catcher, because the catcher is such a defensive position. Yadier Molina, for a long time, really arguably from 2009 all the way up to 2018, maybe 17, depending on how you want to look at it, Yadier Molina was regarded as the best catcher in all of baseball. Widely. The debate between him and Buster Posey is a fascinating one, as well as him and Salvador Perez. But everybody gets compared to Molina, at least in the current day of baseball. Every catcher now is compared, okay, we want to compare you to the best. Let's compare you to Molina at his height. And Molina did have some nice offensive years. You look at a stretch run starting in 2011 and ending in 2016, 2016 being the most recent year that he batted 300. It was also his most recent highest OPS. He had a nice run. He hit 301 from that span, 806 games, 67 home runs. On average, he was driving in 63, and again, the slugging 436, above average hitter on OPS plus as well with 114. He had a very solid above average run. And again, Cooperstown, you need to be more than just above average. But I just think it would be hard for me to not see Molina get in, with him being regarded as the best catcher in baseball for such a long time. And the dominance was a little bit on the offense, but mostly on the defensive end. For years, you weren't running on Yadier Molina, or it was going to be an out 45 to 50% of the time. That's just too good to leave out of the Hall of Fame. First ballot, from a player's perspective, absolutely. From a writer's perspective and a statistical standpoint, it's close. I do think Molina will get in within 5 years of him being on the ballot. Again, he was just too good for too long to keep him off the ballot. It's just, it might be weird for Cardinal fans to see Yadier Molina somewhere, or to see Adam Wainwright, either way, to see Adam Wainwright somewhere and not have Yadier Molina, because you can't talk about one without talking about the other. Their success feeds off of one another, both individually, what they accomplished together as battery mates, and what they accomplished with their teams being in St. Louis Cardinals. They're just so good. So those are the four that I think are on a clear or clear-ish path to the Hall of Fame. Way too early on O'Neill, way too early on Bader, way too early on DeYoung, on Edman, extremely too soon on Carlson, and I don't see anybody out of this Cardinal bullpen being on a clear track right now. That said, you don't have to get in on that 10-year ballot. You can get in on other committees, on other ballots. We've seen 6 be elected to the 2022 class already. So that's what we're talking about next on this episode of Locked On Cardinals. Let me know if you would disagree or agree with anything I've said on the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame, on who I've mentioned. If you think I've left anybody out, let me know, and we will discuss it. Leave a comment on this video. Again, DM at LJ Fastball on Twitter, DM the show at LO_Cardinals on Twitter or Instagram, email the show at lockedoncards@gmail.com. I'll do my best to respond to you on any of those platforms. So we'll take a quick beat on YouTube, take a quick pause on your favorite podcasting platform, and we're back with the first 6 of the 2022 Hall of Fame class. 2 committees had their votes announced on December the 5th. That was this Sunday. The Hall of Fame's Early Baseball Era Committee, which is players pre-1950, and the Golden Days Era Committee, which is 1950 to 1969. And you had 6 players be inducted to the Hall of Fame from these committees as part of the 2022 class. Gil Hodges, Jim Cott, Minnie Minuso, Tony Oliva were all the Golden Days Era Committee, and Bud Fowler and Buck O'Neil, the great Negro League star, voted in thanks to the early baseball era committee. The two with Cardinal ties, Jim Cott, who played for the Cardinals late in his career from 1980 to 1983. And yes, that means Jim Cott, who many think of when I say Jim Cott, at least I think of 60s, 70s, but he was on the 1982 World Series championship team. He appeared he started in two games that year, appeared in 62 overall games. That's right. He appeared in 62 games as a 43-year-old out of the Cardinal bullpen, had a 4.08 ERA, 4.08 ERA, and a 5-3 record overall, 75 innings pitched for Jim Cott. Jim Cott has accolades galore, many Gold Gloves. He was a Gold Glove winner every year from 1962 all the way to 1973, throwing a Gold Glove in 1974 as well, 75, 76, and 77. Durability, longevity galore. His first year in the league was 1959. Played 3 games for a Washington Senators organization as a 20-year-old, and his last was a 44-year-old in St. Louis in 1983. Minnie Minuso was also somebody with Cardinal ties to him as well. Obviously, the longtime White Sox player. Pulling up his stats here is clicked the wrong button on the page. Many thought that he should have been in a long time ago, but Minuso played for the Cardinals in 1962, 39 games, hit 196, so wasn't his Hall of Fame self. Interesting about Minnie Minuso, he played in his first year was 1946, and then he retired after 1964 as a 38-year-old. Came back for 3 games in 1976. He got 1 hit, in 1976. 4 years later, in 1980, he came back to play 2 games with the White Sox as a 54-year-old. So he played in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. So parts of every single one of those decades. Incredible longevity for Minuso. Definitely somebody that deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Career stat line, according to Baseball Reference, 53.8 wins above replacement, 299 hitter, 2,110 hits, 387 on base, 461 slugging percentage, 130 OPS plus. So those are the 2 Cardinal ties in this 2022 class. Scott Rowland could join them. The BBWA writers ballot has not been announced yet, but Buck O'Neil, like I mentioned, also voted in longtime Negro Leagues baseball star. Tony Oliva, Gil Hodges, and Bud Fowler were the other members of the 2022 class. So congratulations to Hodges, Cott, Minuso, and Oliva, as well as Fowler and O'Neil. The first 4 by the Golden Days era ballot, and the last 2 by the early baseball era committee. So let me know what you think about these committees. Do you think that they should have it? How would you change the voting as well? Because there's a lot of controversy surrounding the voting. But nevertheless, congratulations to those 6. We will continue to monitor the Hall of Fame status as we get closer to election, which I believe is sometime in January. And then the induction ceremony is in July. Next up on the docket, if you will, outside of the hopeful end of the lockout, this is a Rule 5 draft coming up, so we'll be monitoring that. So thanks for tuning in today. Let me know what you think, again, on the Hall of Fame, on any of the Cardinals tracking. Do you think somebody else should have been talked about? And again, if you have any other topics you would like me to discuss, let me know. We'll be continuing to talk about Cardinals content here on Locked On Cardinals as hopefully the lockout ends soon. We will be talking some more Cardinal baseball, some more baseball talk, but it's on tomorrow's show. So be sure to tune back in. Follow me on Twitter at LJ Fastball before you leave today. And until I talk to you guys the next time, be sure to stay safe, stay well, and have a fantastic rest of your day.